talked about the Houston game being a little bit of a stress test. You wanting to push your starters a little harder to see how they would react to playing on short rest. You've now had a chance to sort of look at the numbers to see the recovery. Do you feel like that was you got what you wanted aside from the result, which was obviously good? But did you get what you wanted, like fitness-wise, out of it? And how do you feel going into the next one?
Make sure this is an important question. Jeremiah asked it, so I got to make sure. The numbers are skewed a little bit because they had a red card in 60, whatever, and then obviously it evened up again with 10 minutes to go. So the numbers are a little skewed. What I said though was that I wanted that group to go have another run out, not to test them on the physical side of things, but to give that group a chance to play together again to gain some momentum for that particular group. Had we played the one game, made wholesale changes, come back with the same group, I wanted to have some continuity within the squad. So the physical side is always, certainly an issue when you make final decisions on who's going to play, but that wasn't my main concern. So now leading into the third game of an 8-day stretch, then you start looking at the numbers. The numbers came out fine because the game in Houston was a little skewed. There's 2 travel requirements. That leads into it. But the guys that, normally would have been, talked about not playing in a 3-game week, they're all ready. They're cleared to go.
Jackson looks like he's back out here.
Good.
He's all...
He's looked good.
And you had mentioned Leo was maybe carrying a little bit of a knock.
Yeah, but that's why he didn't travel. But he is fine and ready to go.
When you go back in at least in the film room and go back and look at that goal where it was 22 passes and combinations and the use of the width of the field, what goes through your mind and how fulfilling is that?
Well, I actually showed that goal today, but if you go back 30 seconds to that 22 pass sequence, take a look. No? 45 seconds.
Okay.
Ball started our end of the field. Cross coming in, Jordan Morris and Nuhu dealing 2v2 out in the wing channel, some clearances, some details. Then we finally get the ball up the field, and then a little bit of pressure, because Alex's ball to Christian, and should we have kept the ball? That's a decision. Then the press, team stretched. Against a better team, we might have been caught there. We finally get up there, Javi intercepts the pass, then it goes to the 22 pass sequence. So in a minute 45 clip, there were a lot of coaching points this morning about how we can play better, but also what we do well.
We asked Christian about the mindset of the players of the national team players union and them having to sort of internally agree to sort of pool a lot of the World Cup resources. Is that something that you're happy to like? This seems like a level of maturity and a level of sort of like of collective bargaining to take a better term.
Whatever the men did, because I did look a little bit into it. A little bit more, read up on it. It comes down to a basic principle. I mean, whether you're male or female, you should get paid the same. They play the same sport. So I'm happy for those guys to do what they did, but for me it was pretty obvious, pretty easy.
Coach, I know you're not a fan of this question because you're worried about your own team, but Raul Ruiz didn't get called up to the playoff game by the national team. Just kind of want to get your take on that in particular, and how a guy of that caliber perhaps doesn't get called up.
Well, I mean, Raul, look, I could make a case for a lot of my players that they should be called more into their national teams. The narrative with Raul, certainly as a goal scorer, he's been there before. The coach has been there. I don't know all the details there, but I would think that any good coach can see the qualities that Raul brings. So, for me, that's an easy one. He could be very well included in some of those games. Look at Yaimar. I mean, Javi's in, the 2 Americans. You know, there's a lot of guys that deserve consideration. Steph Fry.
In addition to the coaching, which you touched on, what makes Colorado so difficult to play against?
Well, the coaching is one aspect of it, but they have a decent squad. I mean, they've been building with some MLS veterans, guys that know the league, and that always helps in a league that's filled with parity. If you know what's coming, if you kind of been through it a couple of times before, maybe you're on a different team or whatever. But they have a nice collection of good players. You know, Mark Anthony Kay, some of those guys. I mean, it's a good team.
The team will have a 5-game homestand here after Colorado. Just kind of wanted to get your take on, you know, what that looks like in your mind. 5 games here.
Haven't looked that far out. We've looked at Colorado, and then we had a little bit of a peek towards Charlotte, and then we have a break. It's like I said, it feels like, you know, we've played 21 matches, and it feels like it's 2/3 of the way through a long MLS season. So let's get to the break.
Alex's red card, 2 yellows, was the first one in I think 3 years that you guys, almost 3 years that you guys had taken. I don't know. What do you chalk that rather long streak of not getting a red card up to? And is there anything that you felt like was a learning moment from that one?
Well, I mean, look, the 2 fouls. Would I personally say they were a little soft? Maybe, but the ref did a good job in the sense that he called some other ones that if you were a Houston fan might have been a little soft. So he was consistent, and that's all us coaches want. So consistency in not getting reds is certainly something that I'm very proud of. So I would just say that the team has had success. We don't have to be a dirty team that goes out and plays physical. We'd rather play attractive, good soccer. And, I don't want to jinx ourselves, but let's hope we can go on another 3-year streak, because that's always important, having your best players on the field as often as you can.
Coach, there's that play where Ethan gets into the 18, and maybe there's a pass that he could have drawn back to Nico. You at times have mentioned that the experience and the veteran players talk to the young players. Do you talk to Ethan about that, or is that you allow the players to handle?
I haven't spoken to Ethan about that particular play. I mean, the kid did well when he came on. He'll learn from it. He just needs more experience.